Hello and welcome everybody in the Ayurveda and Women's Health Sisterhood Facebook group joining us live and all of our wonderful podcast listeners. Today we are speaking about what is subconsciously blocking you from more health, wealth, and love. And today we have the brilliant Tiffany Cano coming to speak with us about this important topic, because I'm sure we all want more health, wealth, and love, right? That is life and joy. So Tiffany, she's the CEO of the Highly Perceptive People Academy. Many empaths, intuitives, transformational workshop leaders and coaches hire her to help them see and heal their blind spots, be better at holding space and boundaries, because most are overwhelmed, subconsciously guarded, take things personally, and contract when feeling fear and negativity. So she helps them to be more clear and trust their intuition, feel safe to take confident and empowered action, and own their sense of self. In essence, Tiffany gets you even more aligned and congruent so that you can be even better at receiving more money, love, and joy. And that is what we are here to talk about. How can we receive more of this good stuff in our life, Tiffany? So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Woo woo! Money, love, health, joy.
Yeah, all of that. Awesome. I think we're going to have a lot of excited people wanting to tune in to this episode. Before we get started into the juicy stuff, I always start with my rapid inspiration questions. So can you please inspire us with what your superpower is, besides attracting more money, love, and joy?
With empathy, I can, and my intuitive clairvoyant gifts, I can see and heal what is in people's blind spot that's not getting them the life that they're actively searching for. And so I've always had this gift, like ever since I was a small kid, and I've been getting paid for it since then as well. So I would say that's probably my biggest superpower. I wish I could also add in flying, like not just in the meditative inner world, but like physically.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
That would be so cool. And that is actually one of my son's wishes. Like if we ever talk about if you could ever have a superpower, what would it be? And he's like, flying, but not like in a plane, like actually flying. So, yes, I feel you. And yeah, that is so good that you can help people see their blind spots, because as we know, that is what keeps people stuck, right? Not being able to, well, they can't see the blind spots to move past them. So that's really, really important superpower to have for humanity to help everybody else. And so what's your favorite quote or mantra?
Love.
Love, 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 love. Very nice. And what or who is inspiring you at the moment?
My guru, Paramahansa Yogananda.
Mm-hmm.
He's the founder of Self-Realization Fellowship, and in India it was Yogoda Satsanga Society, and just so like his teachings are so profound, and with the meditation techniques in particular, I feel God more than I've ever felt the divine in any other meditative technique. And I've been meditating since I was a teen.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, awesome. So can you please share with us your story on your path to becoming a healer and going on to become the CEO of Highly Perceptive People Academy?
Sure. As I touched on earlier, I've always had the gift to see and heal, and I knew that I wanted to help people. And at first, like when I was in high school, I wanted to be a physical therapist and work with special needs kids. And I went to college and did sports med with an emphasis in that. And then I was like, no, my love for Eastern medicine is just too great. I was just called to keep going on this more of an esoteric path, but I've literally been trained in, gosh, at least 30 different modalities, and I tune in the moment to see what's the best tool to help that client or person. I've been teaching transformation workshops for 25 years, and I love, love, love what I do. And my clients are literally all over the world. I know that with your time zone and my time zone, me being in California, you being in Oz, there's or New Zealand. I
Australia.
remember it was somewhere right over there that you're the next day.
Far, far away people.
Far,
Yeah,
far away,
in
but I love
Australia,
it.
Gold Coast, Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with technology, it's easy.
Mm,
I've been doing distant healings for years.
mm.
Yeah, when I was 23, I opened up a holistic healing center, and that was my big dream when I was a teen, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. We had a lot of different practitioners there, but I wanted more freedom, and I wanted to travel, and so I turned my business over to the Cairo that was there, and I've been doing distant healing ever since.
Beautiful.
And
Love.
yeah, and pre-COVID, I was teaching spiritual retreats around the world. I was in India, I was teaching in Assisi, Italy, and throughout the US, and haven't yet taught in your neck of the woods, but we'll see. Maybe that's on the radar for a future.
And I love when people love what they do, because they just make such a greater impact with that sort of vibrational, feel and essence when they really step into their power and into their magic. So I love that you love what you do, and it sounds very magical, your experience. So congratulations on being able to do
Thank you.
your
And I
well.
love what you do. Like, I'm actively doing an Ayurvedic fall cleanse. I mean, I know it's spring for you guys over there, but it's fall here. And I love it. I love the food. It's so flavorful and delicious. Like,
So
it
good.
it
Yeah,
satisfies me in so many ways. I
absolutely. And
to
I
get
think
all those tastes in there.
totally. And I think the beauty about Ayurvedic cleanses is it's not just cleansing the body and eating well. It's like a whole transformational cleanse from the mind, body, and spirit. So yeah, it always feels so good. So in your experience, just jumping right in here, what do you see is
Sure.
the biggest block that someone has when they want to achieve abundance in all areas of their life, such as money, love, health, and joy? Because that's the dream, to have it all, right? To have the flow of money, to have the perfect love life, to have optimal health, and to just live every day joyful. But that's not the reality for a lot of us. So what do you see as the biggest block that someone has?
It depends on the person, but I can list the handful of the biggest blocks.
Mhm.
Okay. Unworthiness and undeservingness, not feeling safe, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling understood, not feeling like they belong, or not feeling loved. I would say, okay, so that was 7, maybe a little more than a handful, but those are probably the biggest blocks to most people having the life that they want. And a lot of times those blocks start from something small that happened as a kid. And those wounds, those inner child wounds, have just been festering and playing at a low volume ever since then, until they get healed. And then, of course, you can upgrade and up level after that. And it's often takes that inner attunement, inner awareness to even discover them.
Mm, absolutely.
Much of it is subtle, unless you're doing meditation, journaling, going deep within, or having somebody who's not attached to your stuff giving you some help and TLC from the outside, then you can see it more clearly, be more comfortable. Because a lot of times those kinds of wounds aren't comfortable, which is why people don't naturally say, oh, I want to do some shadow work today. I personally love doing shadow work, but most people don't have that facility and comfort and ease with it yet. Maybe just because they haven't been practicing it or having the tools or doing it as part of a ongoing spiritual practice. But once those blocks are discovered, and it could be an old imprint, could be a negative belief, wound, story, something along that nature that's still stuck in somebody's body or stuck in their psyche. And oftentimes when you dig out, or heal and transmute is probably a better way to, and more accurate to say it, even if you were only going for financial abundance, when you heal that core wound of whether it's not feeling good enough or not feeling seen, for example, that will ripple out and then directly affect your love life and then directly affect your health. Like everything gets just uncovered, and people can get lighter and brighter and healthier and more vibrant and start attracting the things that they want.
Yeah, you're so right. There's always a massive flow-on effect with uncovering these things, but also being blocked with something. And I always like say with my clients in my pillars of my higher self methodology, like one of them is optimizing holistic health, because when we can really optimize our health from a holistic view, meaning like physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and even our dharmic imprint, then we can sort of start to live these more abundant, better lives. Because when one of those aspects of you is blocked, then there's going to be a blockage somewhere else because of that flow-on effect. Because we're multidimensional human beings, but we're very complex creatures, and we can't just like be treating the symptoms of what's arising each and every day. And even in my when I do have clients who come to see me, say for hormonal health, we do an Ayurvedic psychology session looking at those limiting beliefs and being able to take them back and shift them around and empower belief shifts that help you expand and grow. So I'm really curious about how you personally with your clients, how you unblock these blocks for people, or get them to see the blocks. I guess that's the biggest, like you said, it starts with self-awareness. So if they're like, I can't attract all this, but they don't realize that they have this, underlining belief that they're not worthy or they're not lovable. Like, how do you get to that?
Well, for starters, I've gotten clearer and clearer about what types of clients I want to attract. So they already come to me open and receptive, because that's what I declared. Like my clients are ready, willing, open, receptive. And so they already come in that space. And then for those who aren't quite ready, well, maybe I send them to an online course or a different practitioner. And then later when they're ready, they're ready. So let's assume that they're ready, they're open, receptive, we've got, enough rapport. And then it does depend on the person. Like sometimes I'll guide them to the ouchie place. Sometimes all they have to do is be a yes and willing to release that belief or that wound. And then I do it silently. I just kind of tune in to see what they need to help with the process. Like some people would sabotage it if they actually had to go into the pain.
Yes.
Where others need that as part of their healing process. So I'm sensitive enough and listen, to the intuition about how to best lead them in that moment. And just because they may have been ready to heal one wound in the last session doesn't mean they're as open and receptive in the next one for that, a new issue. Like people, I'm sensitive to that. Like they might need some time and space, or only shed 3 layers instead of 10 layers of stuff. And some of the common tools, in addition to just intuitively guiding them, I used to be a pranic healing instructor. I've been trained like from early on. This is like teenage onward in order. It was like laying on of hands, gemstone healing, Reiki, reflexology, pranic healing, EFT, NLP, Sedona release, transformation summit, like there's so many different tools. So it just depends. I use a lot of essential oils. I use there's really a lot of tools. So it just depends on what they need in that moment that will give them the safety to do it and to have that breakthrough. And a lot of the time I'm doing stuff that will help cleanse them, cleanse their aura, cleanse their body, cleanse their space, and then get some help to energize and rebalance and strengthen them at the core, and create an empowering, positive, opposite belief or story that will help them to better manifest the goal that they came in the first place with.
Absolutely. And I would love just to touch more on the self-sabotaging behavior. So I have seen this
Sure.
a lot of the time with my own clients and even myself. So it's like when you do the work, so you have someone who is quite self-aware, they're starting to understand their subconscious belief patterns and those limiting beliefs that are holding them back. So they're working on those beliefs, and they start to move through that. They do start to call in more abundance in certain areas of their life, but it's like they can only allow themselves to get to a certain level. And I'm like, it's like me. Like you get to this sort of certain level, and then there's like you almost feel guilty for effortlessly calling in. Well, it's not even effortlessly because you've done the hard work, but calling in this abundance. And then there's the other side of the story where then you've got what you've asked for, and then you go into this fear state of like, imagine losing it all. And sometimes it's more comfortable for people who have come from nothing, having nothing, like they know what that feels like. And I don't know, there's just like a comfort zone between that they want to sit in, because they don't want to ever have to go back to not having anything. Does that sort of make sense and resonate to you, like with the self-sabotaging behavior there of like how people cap themselves with what they can sort of call in and the abundance that they can allow them to have?
Well, that's one way that they can self-sabotage. To me, it's like there's an expansion and a contraction. So as we just did a release, and now there's like an expansion, like, oh yeah, they're in the zone, right? They're feeling good. And then the next layer of something, or the next wound, or the next trigger, right? That's like on their soul's list of let's check this box and clear this out comes up. And then it's like, oh, contraction again, and that expansion contraction is a natural thing. And when there's any recognition of self-sabotage, and sometimes it's a physiological response like tension, constriction, tummy troubles, aches and pains, in addition to the emotional things that show up, like neon signs, oftentimes, right? That's our warning message of here's the next opportunity. I like to think of them more as opportunities, that we can heal something. And so go in and do the work to release that next thing that's on the list so that we can expand again, and often expand greater than before.
Mm.
The ego likes comfort. It likes the same, even if you're suffering big time. The ego wants to stay the same, but the soul's like, infinitude awaits you, my darling. You know, get out of the comfort zone and just merge with me, right? And the soul can then give that blessing and the boost to get you out of your comfort zone and say, all right, I realized I was just self-sabotaging. Oops. All right. Let me release. Let me do one of my sacred tools and then up level, because every next level of you, every new expansion requires more release work to get you to the next one,
Mm.
and more ownership and congruency as well.
Beautiful. And for those who may be listening to this and do feel stuck in a certain area and feel like they're sort of just capped or stagnated, is there any tool at home that you could give them to start working on releasing that limiting belief or feeling like they can't expand from where they're at in life?
Well, the first rather simple yet obvious yet not always comfortable thing is to turn towards it.
Mhm.
To turn towards that thing that you might have been resisting or afraid of or not wanting to deal with, and like lean into it, turn towards it and lean into it, instead of the typical freeze, fight, flight, response that we might have when we're triggered. But actually acknowledge it, lean into it,
Mhm.
breathe into it, surrender
Mhm.
and release. And just by acknowledging it, some things that in and of itself can fix it. Sometimes it's the whole process, leaning in, softening, surrendering, to get to a more neutral place. And sometimes, in addition to that, you still need some help cleansing it out of the space so that it's easier to lean in and get to neutral.
Mm.
So those are a few thoughts offhand.
Beautiful.
Another thing you could do when you're triggered is do a journal and burn session.
Mm.
Write it out. And it doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to put whole sentences. You could just say the word that is, that you're pissed off, you're angry, you're sad, whatever it is. And you could even do it as like a doodle. It doesn't have to be full, complete sentences, but just emote out onto paper. And then I like to burn it afterwards as a free me of this, Lord. I release and let go.
Yeah, I love
And that that can be freeing.
absolutely. Burn the crap out of it and move on. And so
That's right.
when we're talking about like attracting and creating more of this abundance in your life in all areas of your life, how do you see intuition playing a role in being able to take empowered action towards creating the life that we desire?
Well, let me first give my definition of like lower intuition and higher intuition.
Please.
Okay. So lower intuition is like the gut feeling. So when people are on this path of consciousness, the first, in my opinion, the first level of intuition is the gut feeling. And it's loud, often there's a gross, dense frequency of vibration. And then as we evolve, like our heart starts to open and we get more of that, oh, I'm feeling it in my heart, I'm feeling it in my chest kind of a feeling. And that to me is more accurate than the lower intuition, simply because that's where our solar plexus is in the lower chakras. And that can store a lot of anger, stress, fear types of energies, which is why sometimes when you're listening to your lower intuition, that gut feeling, sometimes it may or may not be accurate because it could be tainted and dirty from just carrying those regular stress types of energies. So then when you shift to the heart center, that's begins to be more accurate often. And then higher intuition is using like your clairvoyant and claircognizance, clairsentience types of faculties where you are the energies, the blessings, the insights are more subtle, more refined. The particles are tiny. It's more like listening to the whispers from your soul versus the gut feeling.
Mhm.
Neither are wrong or bad, but I think when we can attune ourselves to listen to the heart and up, right, to our higher intuitive faculties, and that takes training and practice and time, and I teach that for people who are interested, then the intuition to me is more accurate.
Mhm.
And when you're wanting to improve your life in whatever area it may be, and you start paying attention, like first asking, okay, God, universe, can you give me some, can you give me a message about what's next for me? Or can you help me to have greater health? What would be some good things for me to do to have greater health? Or how can I be more open and receptive to love? Whatever your question is, then being able to listen and follow that, your life will get better and better, smoother and smoother, easier overall.
Mm.
When we listen to our ego at this human level of which is very loud and has a lot of wants and don't wants, desires and repulsions, and it's oftentimes imprinted by our human experiences, imprinted by, our family and societal upbringing, then there's often not a lot of intuition in that, but it might give temporary satisfaction, but it's not long lasting. It's not fulfilling in the same way that when you take the time to listen to your soul or God and get the guidance there,
Mm.
there's a greater level of fulfillment, a greater peace. It's more sustainability, oftentimes healthier, greater vitality, more prosperous. And it's like God's warm, fuzzy blanket of love
Mm.
wrapped around, to guard and protect and love on and feel like that you're loved and that all is well in the world. So
And so for
those are just a few things that I consider. Go ahead.
Yeah, wonderful. No, I was just thinking along those lines. You beautifully explained like the ego and the intuition and the difference between that. But say for those who are quite new at trying to tap into their intuitive wisdom and they do ask the question and then they have these two answers flick out at them and they're unsure of which is the ego and which is the intuition. Do you have any guidance to strengthen that ability to discern between the two?
So, I just taught a class on this actually last weekend or last Monday, where I was having my students do an exercise where they were asking their ego or their body part a question, and then asking their soul the same question and feeling the difference. Like there's a different vibration, there's a different quality, denseness, a loudness. Oftentimes when it's ego,
Mhm.
it's more soft, more subtle, when it's like divine types of messages or soul types of messages. Also, there's a greater sense of peace
Mm.
and harmony, like your name, peace and harmony, when listening to our soul versus listening to our ego.
Mm.
There's oftentimes more emotional attachment at the ego level. And it can also have some fears woven in, like FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Or fear of disappointing somebody. And that's the drive to do that thing. But your soul is like, no, sister, that's not the right path. Here, let me show you the way, you know?
Mm.
And then we have free will to choose. And, on this human experience, we're going to make some mistakes, but we can get back up and do better next time.
Mm.
Forgive ourselves along the way and just choose to do better and better.
100%. And I know that you also help people see how they're managing their boundaries or creating healthy space and boundaries. How does this play out with people who are trying to create, then call in more abundance in their life, in health, love, money, all of the areas?
Okay. I think boundaries are super duper duper important for people, especially those who are on a spiritual consciousness path. And if they're sensitive or empathic or intuitive, I think it's even more important to master energetic space and boundaries, because if you don't have them, it's very easy to sponge up other people's emotions or the negative energies in the room. Or if someone has an ailment, you know, that could be sponged up. I know as a kid, I did not have boundaries. Like that was not something I was trained in or taught. And so I would feel when people were in a bad mood. I would feel when someone had an ache or a pain in their shoulder, then I would have that ache and the pain and they'd feel better. Like it transferred to me. And um and just in a funk, like I didn't know if it was my stuff or somebody else's stuff. And so when you start to have energetic boundaries, you won't be sponging up all that negativity, nor will you be taking things personally. So you won't be as triggered, or at least not as often or not as deeply,
Mm.
which will give you a more even mindedness and overall greater peace. And when you feel safer because you have an energetic boundary, then you can be free to drop those defensive guards, walls, and shields that come up at usually a subconscious level until we consciously do our duty to release them. But that, if you're not feeling safe, and that could come from as a childhood, maybe your sibling used to beat up on you, or maybe mommy or daddy was a yeller, or abused substances, and so these defensive guards and walls came up. None of that are boundaries, but those defensive guards and walls keep out stuff. So it keeps your love and kindness and generosity from coming out. of your space, and it keeps other people's love, prosperity, and abundance from coming in. Like it blocks it. It's like a wall. And there's at least 15 different types of defensive guards and walls and shields that I've seen clairvoyantly that are people's go-to when they're afraid. So when those can fall away because you've actively, consciously decided, right, and or had healing to help you let go of that, and often the wound that's behind it, and replace it with healthy energetic space and boundaries, now all of a sudden there's like an energetic filter that says, okay, good stuff can come in, good stuff can come out, we're moving and grooving. And like for me, when I consciously stopped having a shield up, and mind you, it was divinely it was a shield that I used with prayer and consciously created it, and I switched from that to energetic space and boundaries. My income doubled, and the next year I worked half as less and made the amount of money. The year after that, my income doubled again. And so, when you get really good with energetic space and boundaries, it makes you attractive. People can see you, they can feel you, they can resonate with you, they can love on you, they can feel your essence, your love, and they'll want to pay you to work with you or just spend time with you, get to know you. I've had so many clients say, I don't know what I need, but I know I need to work with you. Or I know that you'll know what I need. or just people in general wanting to be around me because of the vibe that I'm carrying and being. So that's the difference to me between like a wall and guards and shields versus an energetic space and boundary, and then how you can actually use it to be more prosperous, to be more loved, to have a stronger spiritual connection, etc.
Beautiful. I love how you have explained the difference between the energetic shields and actual energetic boundaries, because I haven't actually heard anyone articulate it in that way. And it just makes so much sense, because a lot of the time we feel like, yeah, I've got boundaries, I'm putting them in place, but really it's just that hardened shield. And so I guess from your perspective, you're saying like, to then create energetic boundaries as opposed to the shield, we have to first shift the shield and remove that. Is that the first step? Is that what you're saying? Is that, am I
Well,
right?
I mean, even before that, be willing,
Yeah.
be ready and willing, um and heal the wound, the fear, the belief, the trauma that had you put up those guards, walls, and shields, in addition to dropping the guards, walls, and shields. There's usually something behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The why is behind it.
Mm-hmm. And that
And then
is,
there's space for you to have boundaries.
mm-hmm.
And that also is something that you actively, consciously create.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And
you have to really keep, like, you have to think to yourself, like, what are your boundaries, and articulate those to others as well, so that people know what your boundaries are.
yes, but when you own it, when you're energetically clear, I rarely have to actually verbalize the boundary
Mm,
because I'm congruent with it.
mm,
And so people just subtly pick up on it, like family gatherings. I used to dread them because, I sucked at boundaries, as a kid, and I would pick up on other people's stuff, and people in the family would ask me questions and have conversations about things that I wasn't comfortable talking about or didn't want to talk about or wasn't interested in. So then as I got better and better over time, I stopped being wiped out by these family visits, and my family only talked about things that I actually wanted to talk about. And if something snuck in that I didn't have clarity on internally and they asked me, I may or may not answer, or I would just divert and move on and use steer the conversation to what would be uplifting or fulfilling rather than go down the rabbit hole that they may have wanted me to. That's my choice to even if they ask to whether or not I want to say something
Yeah.
or move on.
Yeah. How you respond is always your choice. And just before we go, I would love to ask you if there is any misconceptions about creating abundance in your life that you would like to debunk.
In my life, in
Or
my
not in
client's life, what do you mean?
just in general, like in general, when people are
Okay.
wanting to create more abundance in their life, and we've heard all of, like, different manifestation principles and different ways to do it, is or reasons that they can't, whatever it might be. Is there some misconception about creating abundance in your life in general that you would like to speak further on
Okay.
and debunk that?
Well, in addition to like going to the core and healing whatever that story or belief or wound is, another good way to generate more good karma is to give. So if you need money, give money. And if you need it in a certain area of your life, then give very specifically so that the energy that you're giving out comes back. For example, if someone had breast cancer, I would say tithe to a breast cancer society. If someone was looking for a new house, then tithe to Habitat for Humanity. I'm not sure if you have that over there, but it's a nonprofit that builds homes for people. If someone had a stroke, tithe to a nonprofit that helps with strokes. And what that will do is that will actually give you a bang for your buck in two places. One, overall prosperity, but two, the area of your life that needed the help.
Beautiful.
So what you give, so shall you receive. One of my teachers, Master Choa, used to say, if you plant an apple tree, you can't expect to get oranges. You have to plant the tree with which you want to get the fruit.
Yeah.
So if you need more abundance and prosperity, give and give generously. Don't look at your bank account and be like, oh my God, I only have a few dollars in there, I can't give. Give a few cents. And that's different than service. Actually give of money. Service is giving of your time. Do both. If you want to be really abundant, do both.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you'll skyrocket, and your heart will open, and your crown will open, and your basic chakra, your sacrum, your money maker will open. It'll be a win-win.
Be open, and then you can receive.
That's right.
Love it. Thank you
That's
so
right.
much. Yeah, that's beautiful. And is there any other takeaway that you would like to leave us with today in regards to creating more abundance, health, love, and joy in your life?
Be brave. Be brave to go within and discover what's been blocking you from the things that you're wanting. And it does take bravery, but you're worth it. And when you can value yourself enough to do whatever inner and outer work might be needed, you'll be so happy that you did. And when you work with beautiful people like Harmony or myself or somebody else as your coach or healer, your cheerleader, it'll just make it even easier for you. And the world needs you to be the best version of you. So that's another good way to be of service, is to just keep healing yourself, because your radiance will vibrate throughout the whole planet.
Absolutely. So good. So good. So much beautiful wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate you sharing everything with us today. It's been a really beautiful and insightful conversation, and I'm sure everyone listening can vouch for that as well. So you were going to leave the guests with a little freebie today. You've got something to share. Would you like to share more about that?
Yes, I would. Okay, I had one gift in mind, but I'm feeling abundanza, so I actually, can I give more than one?
Yeah, keep giving.
Okay.
We'll soak it all in.
Okay. So I have an online program called Insight, and it's discovering the 9 blocks to success, love, health, and spirituality. And Harmony will put that link for you in the show notes or in the chat. And it's 7 hours of content. I'm there with you, holding your hand, but giving you an opportunity to actually go within and do some of this work that we've been talking about today. And, have a pen and paper when you do, and you'll love it. It's short videos, so it makes the 7 hours of content go by fast. And then the second thing is, I would love to gift you a complimentary 15-minute call with me where I can help you with your blind spots. I can help you to look for and heal those areas of your life that are directly blocking your money, your health, your love life, and get you going in the right direction. And the way you can do that is just go to tiffany15.com, Tiffany, the numbers 15.com, and that'll get you on my calendar.
Amazing.
So yeah, you can go there to my calendar, and my website is highlyperceptivepeopleacademy.com. And Harmony is also going to be on my Soul of an Empath podcast. So
Can't wait.
if you want to hear, you can also check out my podcast episodes. So there's a lot of ways that we can keep this conversation going, and I can help you, and life will just keep getting better and better.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you for being so generous with your wonderful gifts to everybody. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.